Hey everyone, I'm here today to talk about The Rose Society by Marie Lu. I'm going to do a sort of non-spoiler review in the beginning, but then get into spoilers. This is the sequel to The Young Elites, which came out last year, and this one came out on October 13th of this year. And Penguin was kind enough to send me this book for review, so thank you so much, Penguin, for sending this to me. So like I said, this is a sequel. The first book, The Young Elites, I reviewed last year whenever I read it, so I'll leave a link to that video below so you can go hear my thoughts on The Young Elites. But basically, I really enjoyed The Young Elites. I gave it about a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a great start to the series. This series is a really dark fantasy series that has some supernatural elements with the characters have superpowers. Our main character, Adelina, is constantly fighting between the good and evil within herself. She has a lot of darkness within her. These books are very dark. Alright, so let's start with the non-spoiler section. I will not spoil the Rose Society, but I will talk about some things that happened in The Young Elites. So if you haven't read The Young Elites, I would suggest not watching this video because I might spoil it for you. But just to let you know, if you're curious, I did really enjoy this sequel, The Rose Society. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, so I definitely think it's worth the read. So let's get into the non-spoiler section for The Rose Society. I liked it just a little bit more than the first book. The beginning started out really strong. The Young Elites left off on a really interesting point where we meet a new character and she has this new power to bring people back from the dead. And conveniently, one of our main sort of characters died earlier on in The Young Elites, so I was very interested to see what was going to happen with that. But the Rose Society just started off with a bang. It was really engrossing and totally pulled me in. I thought the beginning and like first half of the book was just a really fun time. We get a lot of time between Adelina and Violetta together, and so we see their relationship dynamics kind of change and grow. We get to learn more about them and see some development with them. So I really enjoyed seeing the sisters together, and then we also get introduced to some new characters that are really great, and I thoroughly enjoyed getting to know those characters as well. In the beginning, Adelina still has her darkness, and we do see her kind of leaning towards the evil side, but it wasn't so dark. But in the middle, the book takes a really dark turn, and the last half of the book was almost sad in a way. So I didn't enjoy the last half of the book as much as the first half, but you know, I appreciate where Adelina's character is going. Like I appreciate the refreshing storyline of our main character becoming a villain, of our main character constantly fighting the evil within herself, but also giving into it a lot. So I think it's a very different kind of storyline. However, it was a little hard to read, I guess, because since Adelina is our main character, you kind of come to really care for her, and to see her going through this and to see the things that she does is kind of hard. And the last half of the book, I mean, it was just kind of scary. Not really scary and like gonna give you nightmares, but scary to see what's happening to the characters, especially Adelina, and so I kind of had mixed feelings about it. So I'm kind of scared to see what's going to happen in the final book. I mean, I'm definitely reading the final book, and I'm definitely excited to see what's going to happen, but also a little scared. So I don't know. I thought The Rose Society was a solid sequel. I think the world building still needs a lot of work. It didn't really hinder my enjoyment of the book because, as you know, if you've read The Young Elites, the books are very much focused on plot and Adelina's character arc and her journey, and not so much the world building, even though it is a fantasy story. Since the world isn't exactly the focus of the story, it didn't bother me too much, but I still kind of feel like the world is kind of like slapped together, and I don't feel like I have a full comprehension of what this world looks like and how it works and everything. There are still those creatures from the first book called Baliras, I believe, and they're kind of like stingray-like creatures that swim but also fly, and I just find those so weird. Like, I don't know, like it's a cool concept, but it's just not really working for me. We get to see a lot of them in this second book, and I don't know, they're kind of weird. Like, they make me laugh in a way, and I'm like, okay, we get no explanation on how these creatures are able to swim and also fly. They can just do it. I don't know. It's a cool concept. It really is. but I'm just kind of like, why? But I do think this was a great sequel, and I'm very interested to see where the next book is going to go. If you read The Young Elites and you didn't like it at all, then I wouldn't suggest reading this book. But if you enjoy The Young Elites, even if you didn't enjoy it as much as I did, or you just were kind of so-so about it, I would continue on and read this book. So much happens with Adelina's character, and we get a lot of development, and I did like it a little bit more than the first books. Those are all of my non-spoilery thoughts, so let's get into the spoiler discussion. If you have not read The Rose Society, click out of this video, go read it. You can come back and talk with us about it. Warning, spoilers ahead for The Rose Society. Well, the way I'm going to go about this is I tabbed a bunch of places in it, so I'm going to kind of go through my tabs, remind myself which parts I marked, and talk about those, and just talk about all the craziness that went down in this book. So even in the beginning of the book, we get Adelina not necessarily battling with her evil side, but giving into it, but also we get to kind of see what's really going on in her head. I marked a few places because in the beginning we get a lot of whispers in her head. She says a lot of things like, "You could rule a place like this," say the whispers in my head, and my heart fills with glee. Those whispers are kind of like her evil side, I guess. They're the ones that are like telling her, you can have all this power, you can control all these people, you know, your powers are what define you. I was confused about the whispers, but I didn't really remember a lot of that in the first book, but it happens so often in this book. So it seems like whenever she's thinking to herself without the influence of the whispers, she kind of is a little more sympathetic, a little more sane, and not as power hungry. Seems a little more normal, but then when the whispers start saying things to her, then that's whenever she kind of goes kind of evil. In the beginning, whenever she's facing those attackers, she kind of contemplates stopping her attack on the attackers, but instead she shrugs it off. She says it's fun, and she said that she used to be more ashamed of such a feeling, but now she thinks, why shouldn't I hate? Why shouldn't it bring me joy? We see her saying, maybe I should stop hurting these people, maybe that's enough, but then her other side comes in and says, no, this should bring you joy, you know. So do see her go back and forth, and I think that's what makes this transition into a villain hard, because we know that she knows what she's doing is wrong and isn't always necessary, that she could take a different route that wouldn't be so villainous. It's the whispers tell her to be evil, I guess. And I think that's like a big difference between her and Tyrion. Like, she has a side of her that knows what she's doing is not okay, is wrong, is destructive, and then we get Tyrion's perspective, and he thinks everything he's doing is justified, that the gods want him to do this, that he is meant to hurt all these people, and he is meant to rid the world of Malfetos, and he doesn't really ever have a second of doubt. Even whenever his love, Gioletta, I'm probably going to say all these names wrong, but Gioletta is telling him, you know, not to, he doesn't really waver. He just says, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about, she's being influenced by these people. You can see a difference between the two types of villains. So that's why I think in the third book Adelina is going to have a redemption, and that she's not going to end up being a villain and being like an evil ruler. But in the beginning, I really loved seeing Adelina and Violetta together and going to all these things. And when they met Maggiano, I thought it was just so fun. And even though Adelina was kind of doing some bad things here and there, it was more kind of like a fun evil side of her in a way. Like when they went and tried to steal the jewel from the Night King or whatever, and she ended up killing him. But I thought the whole thing leading up to that, like when they went and infiltrated the party and all that, you know, some parts of it were kind of funny, and it was a little more lighthearted than the rest of the book. But then I guess we really see her start to change whenever she kills the Night King, and she didn't necessarily have to, like she thought she did, but maybe she didn't, I don't know. And then after that she starts having those weird illusions of her father and all that, like the ones that she can't escape. So we know that bad things are happening. I really liked Maggiano. I thought he was such a fun character, and he really lightened up the story, and he lightens up Adelina. I don't know, they had their kiss, and you can tell, especially throughout the rest of the book, that he has his crush on her. And I think she kind of has feelings for him too, but then the evilness in her won't let her have feelings for him. I don't know. And, you know, Enzo comes back in the picture, so I don't know. I kind of like her and Maggiano together. I think they're a good match. He's kind of a little more light to her dark, and Violetta even says that at the end. So I kind of like them together. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But let me talk about Enzo. He comes back, and he is tied to Adelina. Yeah, he's definitely not himself. He's not the Enzo from the first book. He might have the memories, and sometimes he may act like him, but he's practically a zombie with powers, and he gets like overcome by the underworld, I guess, and his eyes turn black, and he kind of just goes on a rampage. I don't know. He was kind of scary, so I wasn't really rooting for them to kind of continue their romance, because that's too complicated with all his issues, and I don't think it would work anyway, because every time they would kiss, their powers would like fight or something. I don't know, I got kind of confused with that. But yeah, I don't think that's gonna work out, but hopefully in the end Adelina will have some redemption and her and Maggiano would be together. I would be cool with that. In the first book, a part of me was slightly rooting for Taryn or whatever, and I was kind of wanting some redemption for him, but like I said before, he feels totally justified in everything he's done, and I don't see him changing his way of thinking. I don't see him changing how he feels on the subject, so yeah, I think he'll probably just end up dying. I don't know. Let's talk about Violetta's character. I don't think she ever actually kills anyone, but she does knock one man unconscious, and Adelina is like, whoa, I never would have thought she would have done that. So I think she is getting a little stronger. She does admit to being a coward when they were living with their father, and their father would hurt Adelina, and you know, Violetta wouldn't do anything and all of that. She does admit to being a coward, and she does apologize to Adelina for that, so I was happy about that. I'm glad that they're kind of banded together, because Violetta will be necessary in helping Adelina come back to herself, I guess, like help her escape the darkness. I did like to see the growth in Violetta, and I did enjoy her character, and I hope Adelina doesn't kill her, because I thought that she almost did at the end of the book. Like, I thought she was gonna kill her. I was like, oh no, this is gonna be the end, because if she kills Violetta, then I mean, I don't see her coming back from it. So I'm really glad she didn't, but Violetta might not come back to help Adelina because of that. At the end, Violetta's like, well, maybe we should just take your powers away for good. And I was thinking, how could they do that? Like, how do they take their powers away for good? Is that part of Violetta's power? Can she permanently take powers away? I don't know. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine and dandy. I mean, Adelina doesn't want to anyway, but if she did, how did they plan on doing that? Maybe that will be explored in the next book, but that's probably the only answer, because her powers are what is doing all this to her. And also they brought up that the powers are slowly killing them from what's happening to the wind girl. I can't remember her name. Lucent, is that her name? Because her bones are hollowing out from the wind. I mean, I do kind of agree with Adelina. It's kind of a big jump to make, but it's probably true. So I guess taking away her powers would be the only answer, but who knows if she's gonna do that. I was sad to see her fighting with the daggers in the end in the big battle scene, and she killed Gemma, and so I don't know, it was just kind of sad, because we got to read from Raffaele's perspective, so we did get, you know, attached to him throughout this book. And, you know, it's just a really hard story to read. You don't know who to root for, because you have your main character that you've grown to care for, and you want to root for her. However, what she's doing isn't necessarily the best. So it's like, then you kind of want to root for the daggers. They did cast her out, so you're kind of mad at them for that, because I think they kind of overreacted in casting her out. She didn't really mean to kill Enzo. Why would she mean to kill Enzo? She loved him. And then I think the whole thing with her handing them over to Taryn, I mean, that could be explained, and I think that could be forgiven, so I kind of don't think they should have cast her out. But I don't know, it's like, it's hard. You don't know who to root for or who to put your feelings with, I guess, and it was hard to see them fight because I care for both of the groups. Like, Marie Lu did a great job in making you care for all of the characters. I care for Maggiano, and I do care for Adelina, and I want her to accept the goodness in herself, and I want her to turn out okay. You know, and I like Sergio. He was a nice addition, and so I like their little rose society. I also do care for the daggers. It's definitely a fascinating story, and I can't wait to see what happens. Like I said, I'm kind of scared to see what happens. I mean, Adelina kind of reached rock bottom at the end of this book. With her realizing what she almost did to Violetta. The book ended on a very scary note, and so I don't know what's going to happen in the next book. Hopefully she's at rock bottom, and the only way to go from the bottom is up. So hopefully she finds some redemption somehow, and she can somehow get rid of this evil. I really like her power, and I think her powers are a big part of her, and without them I think she would almost be a shell of a person. So I hope they find a way for her to kind of keep her powers but keep these whispers and evil at bay. So maybe they'll figure something out. Maybe Violetta will be a part of that. I don't know. Hopefully Maggiano stays in the picture because I really like him, and I just hope her and the daggers can partner together and maybe rule this country and give the Malfettos a chance at life and help them out. I think it's that Adelina has good intentions. She wants to save the Malfettos. The whole reason she's doing all this is because of how the Malfettos have been treated, how under Giuletta's rule they were being treated in the camps and everything, and how Tyrion wanted to kill them. So she wants to save them. I mean, her intentions aren't all bad. She's just going about it in a bad way because she wants to get revenge on the daggers. So maybe it'll work out for her. Who knows? I don't know. Let me know all of your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. And I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the romance. Like, you think Adelina just might not end up with anyone. Your thoughts on Enzo, because mixed feelings about the whole Enzo thing. I don't really know about him. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my discussion, and I will see you next time. Bye.
She's a killer queen, gunpowder gelatine, dynamite with a laser beam.